And my friend here, Senor Guapo from Ecuador.
Guapo.
How are you, Dominic?
That's a parrot?
He is a cockatiel, and he's a talker. You know, when speakers have an opportunity to talk with their bird, that's a very cool thing.
So your bird, your cockatiel talks to you?
He says, Senor Guapo, and pretty boy and pretty birdie, and hello, Guapo. So, I mean, it's all positive things. That's what we teach in self-achievement, right?
That's right. Well, anyway, so thank you all for joining us. I really appreciate it. Today, we are going to be talking about one of the projects that Rosemary created, oh my gosh, a couple of years ago.
Yes, we have been colleagues for a long time, speaking around the country about leadership and navigating tough times. And here we are.
Dealing with difficult people and making the workforce amazing and all kinds of stuff. And so I'll let you introduce yourself in just a moment, but this program that you created X number of years ago is called Go Wild. It's all about survival skills in the workforce and for life, in business and in life. So I invited Rosemary to come and speak with us today and share some of her insights and talk about how this whole thing with Go Wild. Sounds like you're going wild to a party.
I got some interesting emails from that book title, by the way.
I'll bet you did. So yeah. So anyway, that's it. And then for those who are watching, if you look at the bottom, there's a scrolling bar there that says ask questions by typing them into the thread for Dr. Rosemary to address. There's a link that is automatically posted into the thread. You have to click on that if you want to see your name on the screen. So if you would do that, that would be great. That way I'll be able to see them in my dashboard over here, in my Be Live software dashboard, so I can bring them up on the screen for the doc over here. Okay, so tell us about this. First of all, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from. You're down. You moved from the U.S. to Ecuador.
Ecuador. 12 years in Costa Rica first, but now here in Ecuador. I've lived on the East Coast, the West Coast. My company, Innovation Minds, is based in Silicon Valley. So I'm a hybrid worker, like so many. And Ecuador is where we call home, and happy to be a US citizen, but also the experience of living abroad. And so I'm the Senior Vice President of Product for Innovation Minds. And I also do speaking on leadership, innovation, and being human. Which is, I know we have a common language about.
Definitely. Absolutely. Being human is like one of the key ingredients for everything, right? Being real, being normal, just being a good human being.
That's why we so connected when we were teaching together. So happy to be here and with your amazing network of
happy New Year.
People that are looking to improve and be better and to be the best version of themselves.
Yeah, I've been doing this series. You mentioned it just a few minutes ago before we came live. This 21-day challenge that I put on myself. And I'll tell you, it's really interesting how I've raised my standards in just 15 days of talking about it. And I think that, I remember in the olden days when I was a stand-up trainer like you, working, 5 days a week on airplanes and all this stuff, it was in my mind every day, sharing the information with people, and then remembering all the time that what we had to do was, if we wanted to be the sage on a stage, we needed to walk the talk. And so that was really part of my inspiration for doing this. And so Go Wild and the survival skills kind of mesh with that, don't they?
Yeah, and I remember telling you the story. We all have a friend who talks us into doing wild and crazy things. And way back when, a friend of mine said, there's this wilderness survival weekend in the Pine Barrens of New Jersey. We should go. And I'm like, oh, that'll be fun. That'll be an adventure. Well, little did I know that there would be 50 large burly men with knives strapped to their legs. And I had my creature comforts of home, my Splenda, my little energy bars, and was that a little pain? Yes. But did I have great learning from there? I certainly did. And working with Tom Brown Jr., who's one of the foremost trackers in the world for that weekend, shared with me the principles that, hey, the same principles you use to survive in the wilderness can apply to business and life, which can be a jungle.
And it can be a jungle. You're right. It is like with all this COVID stuff, it is a jungle out there. People have had to shift. Companies, organizations have completely been turned upside down, shaken like a snow globe. And oh my gosh.
Yeah. And interestingly, those survival skills still apply. We certainly did not expect that 2022 would ring in with Omicron, but here we are. And what I'm excited to share with you and your folks is, hey, there's 5 key wilderness survival skills. And if you think about this, it will help you navigate these tsunamis of change, unprecedented times, not only in your business, but in your personal life. And in some ways, when I think about the pandemic, there's been some positive pivots as well. And so hopefully, this is a time of learning, transition, transformation, and we will emerge at the other end and we'll have that human connection again, which I so long for. I know you do too.
Hmm. So the Go Wild it's a program, right? Or it's a book, it's a tape series. What is it?
It was published by Career Track and Park University, and it's an audiobook series, but it's principles that I have brought to Fortune 500 companies around the world and executives for plugging this model into how they approach their business. Everyone's got a system for something, but it's so elegant and so simple that it will be exciting to see what your audience thinks about, how they're applying these 5 elements to surviving and thriving in these times.
Hmm. Okay. So you said 5.
Yeah.
5. All right.
5.
5. Go for it.
Okay. So 5 very simple skills. So when I first went on my wilderness survival adventure that weekend, Tom Brown had us do nothing for 2 hours, but look for scat. I don't know if you know what scat is, but
I've heard the word scat.
Animal droppings, a really fun thing to put on my resume. But I can now tell what animal has been where. He had us listen to bird calls for 2 hours. What was all of this about? It was about awareness and focused awareness of your environment, of your situations. And before you make any move in a wilderness, and by the way, I have been evacuated from, volcano eruptions, mudslides, earthquakes, and managed to survive. But the first thing you do is take a look at your environment before you take any action. And so what he taught us in that weekend was the need for focused awareness. Our world is so noisy that you really need to take the time to focus. And I use the example, you might remember this from our days on the road, but FedEx has an arrow in their logo. Most people never see that arrow until I point it out to them. And then all they see is the arrow, right? It was part of a multi-billion-dollar brand. So what does awareness mean today? Being aware of your environment, of changing trends that are shifting like crazy. So making sure you're aware of your people, places, environment, and really taking that focused time to be present. So that's survival skill number 1.
Okay. And that's key. And even in my specialty, which is personal growth and development, the awareness is like, they're right. It is the number 1 thing, because without awareness, we don't know where we're at. We have no idea what we're up against. We have to bring awareness to whatever situation or something that we want to change in order to, make it happen.
And if you think about that example, when you look at self-development, if you say, I'm going to change, I'm going to be an all new me, it's too big, it's too broad. But if you say, okay, for 21 days, 30 days, I'm going to look at my positive to negative comments, and we'll talk about positive mental attitude. And you take focused observations of various components of your life, you're going to have a whole lot more insight. And for businesses, the same, right? When I go in to look at customer service with an organization, I look at wait time. I study wait time for like a week because it's a key pain point of customer service. I don't look at the whole customer experience, but it's that kind of that focused observation period that can really create the tools, the identification of things that need to change.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I was into customer experience for quite a number of years, and it's a big, broad, there's lots going on there.
Yeah, and in hybrid work, we map at Innovation Minds, we map employee experience, and we actually map every component of the journey from the time you open your laptop in the morning till you say goodbye at the end of the day. What are those positive touch points? So that focused observation really comes in handy.
Hmm. Okay, great. Okay, so number 2.
One of my favorites, adaptability to change. Adaptability to changing situations. You know what? The word now I think we're using is resilience. That's the pop word. But so people that often perish in survival situations, not all, but some, oh no, we're all going to die. Maybe not the best approach. Rather, I think, and the tool that I've always used when things go terribly wrong is next action thinking, NA thinking. What's the very next thing I need to do to survive? So being adaptive to when things don't go according to plan, having a plan B and say, okay, let me not look at what didn't turn out, our expectations. What's the very next thing I need to do to improve my situation? So being adaptable, as you know, different personalities and different styles. You need to be adaptable to people, situations, and circumstances, even technology, because it's changing. So how resilient and adaptable are you becomes skill number 2.
Hmm. And I think it's key, because if we're not willing to be adaptable, we're going to be, what's the word I'm looking for?
A blockbuster? Kodak? I
Yeah,
don't know.
we're gonna be chewed up and spit out.
Yeah, unfortunately, and you know you can't hide forever, and so building up that resiliency muscle. When people, friends have come to me, you know, just heartbroken that the world is where it is. It's like, so what are we learning from this situation? How I must be, you know, I used to say when I failed at something, I must be learning. I must be building my resiliency.
That's right.
That's what I think of in survival skill 2.
Yep. Awesome. Okay, number 3.
Number 3 is essential skills. So when I went on this adventure long ago in the Pine Barrens, I had no idea how to make a fire without matches. I had no idea how to track and build a lean-to for shelter. I learned those things. Now, you need to think about in your chosen profession, your career, your business, what are the core skills that are linked to my strengths that I really need to maximize? So you need to have core skills in order to be marketable in your business, in your personal life even. Really capitalize on those strengths, reinforce those strengths. You know, one of my, I wouldn't say an Achilles heel, but one thing I'm not great at is Excel. Whenever I see an Excel sheet, I run the other way. And I once had a manager who told me, I said, I need to take a course and really learn this. He was like, you could spend a month on Excel and you would still not be brilliant. So focus on what you're really good at. So one of the things I've learned is let me not worry about some of the small stuff. Let me focus on what I'm good at and maximize that.
Yeah, that's a smart idea. And Excel, you're right. I mean, I remember some of our, our coworkers were teaching Excel, and they would teach it for an entire day and still walk away with a lot of great stuff, but mostly it was the basics. And it takes a long time to learn that. That's a major skill right there.
Well, and in the gig economy, I think you know a little bit about this, Dominic. One of the things I've learned is with our global gig economy for services like Upworks, et cetera, there are people out there with skills all over the world. So I can either spend my entire day as a business owner and business leader doing these tasks, or I can find someone who will do this, do it well, do it quickly and efficiently.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Number 4, these are awesome, by the way.
Number 4, I love I think my favorite, and it's interesting how it's changed over the years, is conservation of energy. making every step count. So as I'm looking for food, I'm looking for shelter. I'm making sure that I'm making every step of the journey count. Now it's interesting because now there's a gain on you want 10,000 steps a day. That's great for health. But what it's not great at is when you're, for example, every time you shift from task to task, you lose 45% efficiency. And if you are suffering from what I call tool fatigue, which my company at Innovation Minds really is tackling head on, like let's put everything in one sweet, easy workspace so you're not shifting to different programs all the time. So when I think about conservation of energy, I think about doing my to-do list the night before and really honing that to-do list rather than the morning of. And then to really focus on the steps that will matter, looking for, places where there's an efficiency. Even simple things like, I think you had a program on this on strategically managing your calendar. It took me forever to realize that the calendar was my friend and I really needed to use it, not just for meetings, but for planning time, for example.
Calendar camp.
Calendar camp. I knew you were the creator.
Yeah, the calendar is our brain, or a portion of it.
Well, and making time on the calendar for things that really matter, your personal life. My husband doesn't use calendar tools, but I have a big board and we've got yellow for fun family time as one of the stickers that are on there. So he just looks for the fun family time. So making sure on that massive to-do list, you include the things that really matter.
Mm-hmm. It's true. It's absolutely true. And I think that with what you're saying, what I'm hearing is like conservation of energy really applies to staying organized.
Yeah, it's time, it's money, it's, and what gets measured, we know things happen when we start measuring it. But what is more precious than time these days?
Right.
So really important that we look at, am I making the best use of the time I have on the planet every day?
That's right. That's right. And it just keeps ticking away. I always say that the clock is not the clock on the wall going tick, 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 tick. The clock on the real clock is right here going tick, 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 tick. And it's going backwards.
Yeah. I mean, if you take a long, hard look, I just finished Dexter First Blood last night. And I know I spend way too much time on my serial killers and thrillers and whatever. But I choose to do that as a relaxation time, right? It's the same thing. If you add up all of your coffees at Starbucks, what the amount comes to at the end of the year is shocking. Look at your resources and time, money, energy. Are you really placing those investments wisely?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Okay, so number 5.
You're going to love this one. You have a lot to say about this one, my friend. Positive mental attitude.
PMA.
PMA. And perhaps of all of the things in the survival formula, individuals that really focus on not so much the problem, but the solution, and are that way as well in their communications. I've been married close to 30 years now, and we always say there's, you've heard the term emotional bank account, 10 positives to every negative in the relationships that we build. The same with our employees, right? So particularly when I'm working with leaders in this hybrid space, where your attention is drawn to things that aren't going wrong, that are not going right for you. So you focus on those negatives. I've trained leaders to say, before you start giving your feedback, that favorite word, just ask a simple question to your team. What did you like best about that last interaction or what you produced last week? And what would you do differently next time? You might remember this, LBs and NTs.
Yep.
And you don't have to be the one delivering the negative feedback all the time. People are pretty insightful about what they think they did well versus what they did incorrectly. So in these times particularly, very easy to get locked into, and you and I both know that how you bookend your day is important. So there's this rule that for the first 45 minutes of the day, don't look at your phone, don't look at the TV or media. Try to begin the day with something positive, inspirational readings. My husband and I look at art and talk about art. In the evening, also, bookend that end. We remember beginnings and endings. Think about how you focus the end of the day on appreciation for all of the joys that have been presented to you, even if it's learning and what some people would say failure. I think we talked last time about fail fest. Failure shows that you are learning. So even in those negative situations, identify what positives there may be, and there are, particularly even in this pandemic. What's positive about it? Rather than what's wrong with it, what's positive about it?
Yeah.
That's the 5.
Absolutely. That's interesting that you said that. Looking at what's positive about it. I remember a time I roped my father into coming with me to a workshop. And he resisted, didn't want to do it. He was retired. All he wanted to do was go to his workshop behind his garage and play golf. That was it. I don't want to do that, Dominic. I don't care. I'm already, self-actualized. I've done all this work, blah, 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 blah. I don't need to do that. So I did, Dad, just do it for me. Come on, just do it. So finally he agreed. Anyway, he was so pleased that he went. He went out, and his buddies, his retired buddies, they would always go and sit and have a couple of beers later. So one day I went with them, and he was out on the golf course, and we're playing, having a good time. We got done, and my dad says, "Okay, guys, tell me 2 things positive about what we did today."
Yay!
I almost fell off my chair.
Exactly. Rather than how was school today, even asking the simple question, what went right today, is a great way to do a reframe in these times. I love it. And your dad was learning from you and making a shift in his thinking. You can do that at any age.
We had a ball laughing at, the one positive thing was I didn't hit anybody in the head with the ball.
Well, and on a sadder note, if I think about the darkest moments of my life, one of those moments was when my mom was diagnosed with lung cancer, and I took a leave of absence from work to be with her. And, I think about the conversations we had that never would have happened. And I also think about a reframe that happened during that time for me. I used to worry about everything. I mean, I'm still a little neurotic when it comes to certain things, but it's like I used to obsess about everything. And after that time in my life where I had a pivot, very similar to what we're having now, I remember my 3-word reframe was, "It's not cancer." And my world opened up because I began to take more risks, and I began to really minimize the smaller stuff that was taking so much of my energy. So I guess the lesson to that is, okay, it's not cancer. Things are happening that are terrible, but what can we find? What light can we find in there? What learning that will make a difference in building a better world tomorrow?
Mm-hmm. I love it. Okay, so my final question would be, briefly, what would be 1 or 2 things to do to implement this? I mean, I made my little list here, and it's a phenomenal list. My fear always when I teach people something or share some information with someone is they're going to take the thing and they're going to put it in the pile on their desk, and then later on something's going to go on top of that one, and then like that, it's going to disappear. So how would you recommend for our members here in the Self-Achievement Network to do 1 or 2 things to implement?
That's an awesome question, and you're so right. I'm working with a client who does micro learning, and it's reinforcement continually. We never remember the first time around. So one thing I would say is, whenever something doesn't go according to plan, ask yourself, NA thinking, what's the very next action I need to take to improve this circumstance? So rather than going in a negative spiral, okay, what's the very next action? What's the plan B? Always be forward thinking. The second small adjustment you can make is bookend your day. I'm gonna say that that's a key. Begin in the morning, not picking up your phone immediately, not looking at CNN or MSNBC or whatever network you choose, but to read something inspirational. Don't work on your to-do list in the morning. Do that the night before so your brain gets to work on it overnight. That's one shift I made, which was I used to start, okay, in the morning, let me make my list. You need processing time overnight. So make your to-do list the night before, begin on a positive, and at the end of each day, and this is not a new secret, but really end with appreciation. And that psychological chemistry we have subtly begins to change. Yeah, I would say that those are a couple of key next actions that I would think about making, that I still have to remind myself of, by the way, because you can go off the tracks. You can go off the tracks when things go crazy. So I always come back to the 5-point formula and say, am I being true? And am I applying this? And I want to survive it, and I want to thrive, and I want to be the very best version of me.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. I love it. I always tell people to remember their the recommendations that I make is find a place to put them where I can look at them every day. And I said, my favorite one is this.
Well, and you know what's great? I just read this morning. So I have a book recommendation for the group, Rolf DeBelly, The Art of Thinking Clearly. And every day he's identified 120 errors in our thinking. And today's reading, which is how I begin the day, was how our memories fail us. Even when people recall 9/11, what they think they said at the time versus what they now remember, even for traumatic light bulb moments, it gets distorted with time. So journaling, if you think it, ink it, so you can go back on it and reflect, is just so important. I wish I was more disciplined about this throughout my entire career. And that journaling is a keeper.
It is a keeper, and I'm glad that you said that. We're going to wrap it up in just a minute. And so, like, I've got some shelves over here, and I have a box that has journals in it from 25 years ago. And every so often, I'll go over there and I'll look, and it's amazing. I used to write my insights in there, which was very inspiring to me because I wanted to see progress. I wanted to see my journey of personal growth, and I can go back and look at that and say, I have made a lot of progress. I mean, I really feel like in many ways I was in the dark before, and in many ways I still am in the dark, and that's why life is a journey, right? So anyway, thank you so much. Awareness, adaptability to change, essential skills, conservation of energy, positive mental attitude.
You got it. And reach out to me anytime. I love to talk with your network from around the world. And I think we need to all inspire each other. And that's what your network does.
Well, thank you. Well, thanks for being here with me today. I really appreciate it. And you're going to post the links to your website and to your business site.
Yes, Innovation Minds in Silicon Valley. And people can reach out to me personally as well.
Okay. If you have any questions for her, all you need to do is, her name is attached here somewhere in the thread. Just go click. Hey, Rosemary, I saw that thing with Dominic, and I thought it was awesome, but I have a question. You can do that. She's amazing. Isn't she amazing, guys? Amazing.
You're welcome, my friend. Take care.
Thank you for being with me today, and have yourself a fabulous rest of your day down there in warm, sunny Ecuador.
Thank you.
The name of your hometown again? The name of your hometown?
Oh, Cuenca, Ecuador.
Cuenca.
A World Heritage City. So put it on your travel list.
South America. Wow, it's amazing. And to me, just the fact that you have settled down there and changed your life and moved your life down there is a true inspiration. So
thank you, Dominic.
Thank you. All right, guys, take care. For all of you out there watching or will watch later, have fun, be safe. Talk to you.